Is your local business or organization looking to give back to the community? Help keep our roads clean by joining the Adopt a Road program administered by Keep Tampa Bay Beautiful. Keeping our roads clean is a great way for team building as well as exposure for your business. Select the road your business wants to adopt and dispatch a team to remove litter and debris. Participants will receive 2 signs showing their organization's name as well as safety equipment and instructions for cleaning roads. You can help keep Tampa Bay beautiful by adopting your own road today. To learn more, visit hcfl.gov/cleanhc.
These are the jobs you may not see every day, but just know we're working hard to make Hillsborough County a better place to live, work, and play. Subscribe to our YouTube page for more great county-related videos, only on HTV.
Tampa Bay is like no place else.
Wait, you can't recycle the bag? You have to throw it away.
Proper recycling keeps it that way for everyone. Bags tangle in machinery and can bring sorting efforts to a halt.
No bags.
Trash the bags and keep our recycling program moving forward.
No, Mom, look, no plastic bags.
Do your part to keep our recycling bag-free. Trash the tanglers or return them to participating retailers. For more information, visit tampabayrecycles.org.
Don't let mosquitoes ruin your day. Fight the bite by removing standing water on your property. Standing water of any kind is a breeding ground for mosquitoes. Do your part and help reduce the mosquito population.
Visit hcfl.gov/fightthebite.
morning. Welcome to the February 11th, 2025 regularly scheduled land use meeting of the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners. Would everyone please rise for the pledge and invocation given by our chaplain, Commissioner Myers.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, individual, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, gracious Heavenly Father, I come to you this morning thanking you for all that you've allowed us to do. I thank you with gratitude for all the applicants who have submitted an application that we'll be discussing their project today. I thank you with gratitude for this board and all of our members, all of our staff who will present information to us today. Bless this meeting in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Commissioner Myers. Mr. Grady, you want to review changes to the agenda?
Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Grady, Hillsborough County Development Services. Yeah, we do have, in addition to the published withdrawals and continuances beginning on page 3 of the agenda, we do have two changes to the agenda. The first is on page 8, item E3, PRS 25-0191, revised conditions of approval, amending site plan certification requirements 4 and 9, and conditions 78 through 82 have been submitted into the record. The other changes on page 10 of the agenda, item F1, rezoning standard 24-0775. The applicant has withdrawn this application. Those are all the changes.
And can we have a motion to approve the changes?
Move for approval.
Motion, Commissioner Myers, second, Commissioner Cohen, to accept the change to the agenda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on the consent agenda.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, anyone here for a B item? The application's been approved. This time, if you're planning on testifying today, would you please stand, raise your right hand so the clerk can swear you in?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Okay, we don't have any C items, so we're on the public hearing agenda. Mr. Grady?
Commissioners, the first item is agenda item E1, PRS application 25-0029. This is a request for a minor modification to a PD that's located at 3602 Boot Bay Road. This PD is currently approved for RV repair and reupholstering and repair, and it provides accessory office and open storage and storage, enclosed storage. The applicant is requesting to add within the southwest corner of the property a security residence. This is an allowable use within the LIP plan category that the parcel has. In addition to that, they are making provisions for a pool in an area that was showed a prior pool deck. Staff is recommending approval of this. I believe the applicant has also requested that the positions specifically clarify allowance for the accessory pool, which we have no objection to adding that as a condition of approval. Again, staff is recommending approval, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. Oh, not for this one. Thank you. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451, St. Petersburg. This is just a minor modification. We've sent out, believe it or not, 206 notices. There's no opposition on file or on record. This is just changing a couple of the very small uses on a much larger site. The only additional request I make, as Mr. Grady has indicated, that we do want to state in the conditions that also includes a pool use. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? All right, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on E1.
Commissioner Myers? Motion carried 7-0.
Next item.
Commissioners, the next item is agenda item E2, PRS application 25-0115. This is a minor modification of PD located on 19.16 acres on the south side of Sumner Road. east of US 301. Commissioners, currently the project is permitted 63 single-family residential lots. As part of this modification, they're reducing the lot total to 57 units. They're reconfiguring the layout of it to accommodate additional wetland and floodplain mitigation. They're also requesting reduced setbacks to the front and rear yards to provide for the reduction would allow for a 20-foot front yard and a 15-foot rear yard setback. Staff is recommending approval and available for any questions. Thank you.
Is the applicant here? Morning, sir.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Kevin Reale, 401 East Jackson Street. Staff covered it. Really what happened, this PD was approved last year, and engineering identified the need for more floodplain compensation, so we redesigned, and as a result of the lot reduction, are changing the product slightly, and so asking for different setbacks to support that. If you have any questions, I'm available.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Wellstill, second, Commissioner Miller. Please record your vote on E2.
Motion carried 7-0.
Okay. E3.
Next item is agenda item E3, PRS application 25-0191. Commissioners, this is a request for a minor modification to a 16.4 acre parcel located within the Waterset PD, located at the northeast corner of 30th Street Northeast and 19th Avenue Northeast. The request is to provide for two additional right-in, right-out access points, one on 19th Avenue Northeast and one on 30th Street Northeast. Full access points will be located internally within the project as noted. The other change is to modify development standards for this project, remove requirements for traditional neighborhood design type standards that are provided for all the various mixed use and town center tracts within this larger PD. Given the location of this parcel at the outer edge of the PD and surrounding land uses, staff does not object to removal of those standards. I also do want to note for the record, staff did receive some comments regarding the desire from the installation and concerns about the lack of a light currently at the intersection of 30th Street and 19th Avenue, and desire to ensure that light is constructed. There is, as part of this minor modification, there's a new condition 81 that basically requires a signalization of that intersection before issuance of COs for the development within this parcel. Therefore, I just want to note that for the record. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Good morning. Cammie Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward & Henderson this morning. I think staff covered this request pretty well and addressed the concerns of the public by inserting that condition 81 to address the issue of not having the light operational in that location. And I'm here to answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you. Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Commissioner Wellstill?
I just wanted to make sure, Mr. Gormley, we're not going to try and replicate the issue where we required a light down in South Shore, Apollo Beach area, and then they put it up, and then TICO wasn't able to get it on, and then we had some serious safety issues that arose from that. We're not putting the cart before the horse on this, right?
We are not, Commissioner. The condition that Mr. Grady noted will specifically require that signal be installed and operational before the store can open. Any use on that site can open.
Okay, I'll move approval.
Second. Motion by Commissioner Wellstill, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on E3.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right, E4.
Commissioners, next item is agenda item E4, PRS application 25-0235. This is a request for a minor modification to a portion of a PD located on the south side of State Road 60 east of South El Rico Road. The request, currently the PD is permitted commercial uses in 5 development pods. This modification is addressing modification of development pods A and B, ostensibly to modify the size of those 2 development parcels, and also as part of creating this second development option, outlining specific entitlements that would be assigned to those 2 parcels. As presently, those 2 parcels are just permitted a blanket amount of square footage at 89,000 square feet, and through this modification, they would specify a certain amount for parcel A and parcel B. Staff is recommending approval and we're available for any questions.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here?
Cami Corbett again for the applicant with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson. Again, this is a pretty straightforward request. We're not increasing entitlements, not asking for anything new. We're just adding an option for flexibility for placement of the buildings or certain buildings on the site. And so we're here to answer any questions if you have them.
All right, thank you. Any proponent testimony? Anyone in opposition? Can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote on E4.
Motion carried 7-0.
E5.
Next item is agenda item E5 is DRI application 25-0238. Commissioners, this is a consolidated mining operations associated with Mosaic phosphate mining operations in South County. This request is to remove a 389.6 acre parcel from the boundaries of the PD as indicated in the location maps on the screen. This area is not been mined, has not been permitted for mining, and is basically not owned by Mosaic. It's owned agricultural, and it's owned by Kisea Farms LLC. Staff is recommending approval of this, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Applicant here.
Cami Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson representing the applicant here. As Brian indicated, this site is actually zoned agricultural mining. The zoning will remain the same. We are just simply taking it out of the phosphate mine. There was some strange social media activity about this particular site. People were saying this was going to be high-rise development or something. That's absolutely not the case. We are not changing the zoning. We're just asking to get out from under the DRI obligations related to phosphate mining, which is not something we intend to do. We're perfectly fine with the agricultural mining zoning district. So I'm here to answer any questions.
All right, anyone in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? We have a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote on E5.
Motion carried 7-0.
E6.
Next agenda item is E6, is CDD 24-1328, the petition to expand the Watershed South Community Development District. This petition is submitted by the Water by the South CDD to expand the CDD by adding about approximately 41.32 acres of the CDD. The revised CDD would encompass approximately 800.2 acres and is located east side of 19th Avenue between US 41 to the west and I-75 to the east and south of Paso del Mal Boulevard. No objections to the proposed CDD were raised. Staff finds the application meets the requirements of Chapter 190 Florida statutes to expand a community development district and recommends approval. And staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, this is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to this item?
Good morning, Commissioners. Kate John with the law firm of Kutek Rock, representing the applicant today. And as Mr. Grady said, we are asking the board to approve an inclusion of approximately 41 acres of lands to the Watershed South Community Development District. We've worked with Mr. Grady and other members of county staff to answer any questions regarding the amendment process, and we are here to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you. May I have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Motion carried 7-0.
All right. Ms. Grady.
Commissioners, the next item is F2, which is rezoning standard 24-1016. We've been advised by the applicant that she is presently trying to locate a parking space to get into the meeting, so she's not presently here yet. So,
all right, so we want to continue F2. All right, we'll continue F2 to the last item.
Okay.
Can we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote.
Commissioner Wostel? Motion carried 7-0.
Ms. Grady.
The next item then will be item F3, rezoning standard 24-01203. Commissioners, this is a request to rezone a 0.7 acre parcel located on the north side of Bloomingdale Avenue, east of Belshols Road. The request is a rezone from residential single-family conventional to commercial neighborhood with restrictions. The use restrictions is the only one that's restricting drive-throughs, convenience store with gas, car washes, and auto repair. Again, commercial neighborhood with restrictions. As you can see, staff was not supportive of it based on the surrounding development pattern and lack of any existing retail commercial type zoning in the area. Staff was not supportive of a CN restriction from our perspective. Office type zoning district similar to a business professional office would be more appropriate at this location. Planning Commission found it inconsistent. It doesn't need a waiver to location criteria, and the hearing officer also was not supportive of it. Staff is available for any questions. Thank you.
All right. Is the applicant here?
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Todd Pressman, 200 2nd Avenue South, number 451, St. Petersburg. I hear Dr. Cruz, who'll speak with you for just a minute. This is REZ 241203. Is that PowerPoint up for you all?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. This is a request for residential single-family to the CNR category. Now, the CNR is the lowest commercial category, and we're adding some significant restrictions because our direction has been to be as compatible as we can be with this particular area. We are in the Brandon area, 0.70 acres. We are located on Bloomingdale Avenue between Bell Shoals and Lithia Pinecrest, as you can see here. This is a close-up of the site from the property appraiser, located right at Hurley Road and Bloomingdale Avenue. Now, we have a lot of use restrictions, which include no access to Bloomingdale, no drive-through uses, which can be very impactful, and the following uses are not permissible, which would be, again, a drive-through, a C-store with or without gas pumps, neighborhood motor vehicle repair, car wash facility. Those are the really intensive uses that you find under CN, and we've excluded those. Future land use map, zoning map. Now, when you look at Bloomingdale Avenue, the zoning may look a little bit light, but the uses are very CN element. In the center, you'll see is the site. And critically, to the east is the county retention and county area, so there's no impacts whatsoever there. There's a church to the west. Now, Dr. Cruz has contacted the church and has personally spoken with them. They did not come forward with any opposition. We don't have a letter or anything from them, but we have communicated with them, and again, Dr. Cruz met with them on their property. The property to the immediate north, which was a concern of your staff, are the Valentines. I was in the area, and I met with Ms. Valentine on her property at her home and discussed the rezoning with her, and Dr. Cruz also, at a separate time, met with the Valentines as well. So we have nothing coming forward from them that are in favor or in opposition, but we have reached out to them and they've received 2 notices and, of course, the big, huge yellow signs. So again, in the record, there's no opposition that has come forward. But if you look at Bloomingdale, you see the first uses immediate to the east is a property that maintains a Domino's Pizza, a bike shop, coin shop, a hair salon, and fitness. When you look to the other side is the church, county fire department, daycare across the street. Those are all office, CN retail type uses. So there is a lot of activity and business activity that works just fine. And zoning staff notes that near the vicinity are child care centers, light commercial uses, public institutional uses, Bloomingdale High School. Planning Commission also notes as well, light commercial exists to the southwest across on Bloomingdale Avenue. Under the zoning department recommendation, they do note that the proposed restrictions will prohibit high traffic uses, and that was our intent, was to make this compatible. And they note again as well, directly east and south are vacant retention areas, which would buffer the proposed commercial district. Now, I will tell you, the ZHM does not give us a lot in terms of the message. Now, she did note at the beginning of her statement that there are no opponents, but as well, when you look at her summary and conclusions under ZHM, not included is our personal testimony of personally meeting with the adjacent owner to the north and the abutting owner to the west. Not included in her summary and conclusions was that there was no opposition at the hearing. She just stated as a fact at the beginning, but not part of her summary and conclusions. And also not included is a consideration of 2 certified mailings at 300 feet. We noticed 8 HOAs, and 2 months of a big yellow sign in terms of making sure everybody knew that this was happening. We were not able to bring the communication about the 2 abutting owners your staff had a concern about until last couple of days before, so your staff was not aware of those in their reports to you. When you look at Bloomingdale Avenue, it is a 4-lane arterial roadway. It's a busy roadway. In 2023, it carried almost 30,000 vehicles per day. It has an extremely high pedestrian count of 584 pedestrians, which of course must be generated by the high school. It is on the listing of the Hillsborough Arterial Roadway System. We do have a locational waiver that's submitted that's based on the factors that you're hearing, the unique location of the adjacent and the retention areas that really kind of cocoon this site so there's not impacts or compatible elements, the existing uses in the vicinity, and the intensity of Bloomingdale Avenue. We've also restricted access to Hurley, which the Transportation Department wanted, and there's no objection from your transportation. Now, looking at the Brandon, or looking at the zoning, looking at the Planning Commission concerns in their report, they refer heavily to the Brandon Community Plan, which is a suburban district. And under the Brandon Community Plan, that's described as a suburban character, primarily residential, with predominant single-family homes. But as I've shown you on this particular segment, that really isn't the case. When you look at the segment of Bloomingdale, the site is in red to your left. The county fire department is there to the left. But you'll see, again, the first use to the east is office commercial with Domino's, bikes, hair, coin, typical everyday CN sort of type uses. Then you have Bloomingdale High School, which is a huge impact. Then you have Starbucks, then you have a long line of drive-through restaurants and Walmart. So when you look at the Planning Commission evaluating the Brandon Community Plan, suburban characters, primarily residential, we don't see that at this particular segment. And then again, looking closer at the site is in the middle. The 2 abutting uses we've had discussions and communications with. They receive the public mailings, and you see the typical uses, which this would be somewhat really similar to the uses that are there. So again, on the zoning recommendation, they note vicinity is the area of childcare like commercial uses. Planning Commission, again, like commercial uses exist. So in summary, with the restrictions that we proposed, the use intensity of the area, the roadway intensity, and what we think is the inability of the community plan at this time, evaluating it and seeing what the real uses are, with no opposition whatsoever, we request your consideration and support. Dr. Cruz has a couple comments for you.
Thank you for a chance to speak. I think everything he said was really what we were thinking. AJ's Bikes, which is my most closest east neighbor, has been there for 10 to 15 years. So this is not, egregious. My neighbor, when I spoke to her, which would be directly to the north, understood that, you can't put a house there. There would be some type of office or business going there. So she didn't have any opposition based on that. So that's why we thank you for considering this rezoning today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any proponent testimony? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. For the record, Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the residential 4 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the Brandon Community Plan. The proposed rezoning does not meet future land use element objective 16, and it's modifying policies that relate to neighborhood protection. There is single-family home directly to the north of the property, with more single-family homes further north. There are also single-family homes across the street from the subject site along Bloomingdale. Future land use element policy 16.5 states that developments of higher intensity non-residential land uses that are adjacent to established neighborhoods shall be restricted to collectors and arterials and to locations external to established and developing neighborhoods. The applicant proposes to restrict access from Bloomingdale Avenue, which would result in access from Hurley Road, which is a local roadway. This is in direct conflict with this policy direction. A rezoning to commercial neighborhood restricted would also introduce a development pattern that is too intense for the surrounding area and is inconsistent with the policy direction relating to compatibility. The subject site does not meet commercial locational criteria. According to policy 22.2 of the future land use element, a site in the residential 4 future land use category must be within 900 feet of a qualifying intersection. The closest qualifying intersection to the subject site is Bell Shoals Road, a 2-lane roadway, and Bloomingdale Avenue, which is a 4-lane roadway. The distance from the subject site and the qualifying intersection is roughly 2,800 feet, and therefore the site does not meet commercial locational criteria. Objective 22 seeks to scale new commercial development consistent with this character of the area. The applicant has submitted a request to waive the CLC criteria per future land use element policy 22.8, and Planning Commission staff has been unable to identify any unique circumstances that would warrant commercial uses being located at this site, and therefore recommend that the waiver request not be granted. The subject site is within the limits of the Brandon Community Plan, specifically within the Brandon Suburban Character District on the Character Districts map. Goal 6 of the Brandon Community Plan describes the Suburban Character District as primarily residential with predominantly single-family homes. The rezoning request to CNR on a site that does not meet commercial locational criteria does not align with the Suburban Character District's vision. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning inconsistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the rezoning of subject property consisting of approximately 0.7 acres of undeveloped land at the northwest quadrant of Bloomingdale Avenue and Hurley Road in the Valrico area. The property is designated residential 4 on the future land use map and zoned RSC 2. The applicant's request is to rezone the property to commercial neighborhood restricted. The applicant's proposed restrictions are to prohibit certain uses allowed in the commercial neighborhood district, including drive-through facilities, convenience stores with or without gas pumps, car wash facilities, and neighborhood motor vehicle repair. The applicant is proposing access to Bloomingdale Avenue be prohibited. The general area surrounding the property consists, of a mix of residential places of worship, medical, office, childcare, and school uses. Adjacent properties include a residential single-family home parcel zoned ASC 1 to the north, Hurley Road, and a county-owned parcel to the east, Bloomingdale Avenue to the south, and a county-owned parcel further south, as well as a place of worship to the west. Development Services Department staff found the proposed commercial neighborhood restricted zoning would allow retail uses which would not be compatible with the uses, zoning districts, and development pattern of the surrounding area. Staff found that the intensity of the proposed zoning would be incompatible with the abutting residential parcel to the north. Staff concluded the proposed rezoning is not supportable. Following the zoning hearing master hearing, the zoning hearing master's recommendation was for denial.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Cameron Cepeda.
Yes, so from the map that was shown, we can clearly see there's such a variety of businesses, commercial and residential, and I really think that we should approve this, and so I definitely would like to move for approval in favor of the applicant.
Second.
All right, got a motion by Commissioner Cameron Cepeda to approve, second Commissioner Wolstall. Commissioner Wolstall.
Thanks. I initially had reservations until I hear now that a lot of the resistance is about that there's a CLC here, which is something I've expressed disagreements with in the past. I don't typically agree with commercial land use criteria. And this is one of those nuanced situations of why, as we move forward, we might want to re-examine us having these CLCs as a guideline. And I just wanted to say, praise Jesus, it's not another car wash, and I'm glad that it's restricted. Thank you.
Commissioner Cohen.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with both of you more. Actually, I'm also glad it's not a car wash. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Please record your vote on F3.
Motion carried 7-0.
Next item.
Commissioners, next item, agenda item F4, rezoning standard 24-1297. The request is rezoned from RSC 6 to RDC 6. The RDC 6 district would allow, in addition to conventional homes, which is permitted in RSC 6, would also allow duplex units. I would note that based on the comprehensive plan category, Res 6 and the acres of the parcel, the maximum number of units under both zoning districts is 2 units. So really the difference here between the RC 6 and the RDC 6 would be the fact that under the RDC 6, you would have a single building with 2 units as opposed to 2 separate buildings for the 2 residential dwellings. Based on the surrounding development pattern, staff has recommended approval. Planning Commission found it consistent with the comprehensive plan, and the hearing officer recommended approval, and staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
Is the applicant here? Please come forward, sir. Good morning.
So this is a straightforward rezoning. We want to go from a single home to a duplex. One is to live myself, and the other one is to rent. It is in front of the duplex will be trailer park, and then north of it is a single family home, and then in the surrounding areas we have multiple duplexes. So it's just a straightforward rezoning.
All right, if you can state your name.
David Higuera.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you, Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located within the Residential 6 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area, and it is not located within the limits of a community plan. The proposal meets the intent of Objective 1 and Policy 1.4 of the future land use element by providing residential uses within the urban service area where 80% of future growth is to be directed according to policy direction. The proposal meets the compatibility requirements of future land use element policy 1.4 as the character of the area contains a wide variety of uses. The subject property currently is vacant, and additional residential uses exist further north and west of the subject site. The proposal meets the intent of future land use element objective 16 and its accompanying policies that relate to neighborhood protection. The development pattern of the surrounding area shows several residential units, and the proposed rezoning would reflect a development pattern that is consistent with the residential development pattern in the surrounding area. Based upon those conditions or considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Hearing Master?
The zoning hearing master considered the proposed rezoning of the subject property, which consists of approximately 0.48 acres on the east side of Paddock Street, north of West Waters Avenue, south of Xanthus Street in Tampa. The subject property is designated Residential 6 on the future land use map and is zoned RSC 6. The general area surrounding the subject property consists of residential, single-family, and manufactured home uses, medical and professional office, and a place of worship. Adjacent properties include single-family conventional uses to the north, a mobile home park across North Paddock Avenue to the west, and professional offices to the south and east. Development Services staff found the proposed rezoning to the RDC 6 district to be compatible with the density and uses in the general area. Staff concluded that the rezoning is approvable. Additionally, Hillsborough County Transportation Review staff stated no objections. The zoning hearing master concluded with a recommendation of approval.
All right, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion,
Second.
Commissioner Wostel, second, Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on F4.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Next item.
Next items are related items G1A and G1B. G1E is a rezoning standard 24-1206. This is a request to rezone a 262.63 acre parcel that's currently within a planned development to AR, the rezone out of the PD. The restriction that the applicant has offered is limiting any future non-agricultural uses to one home, and any future redevelopment of the parcel for further residential development beyond one home would require connections to Lightfoot Road that dead ends into the property. Staff did recommend approval of this. The Planning Commission found it consistent, and the hearing officer also recommended approval. Related item G1B is a minor modification to the planned development to remove this parcel from the PD and also to to redesignate areas north of it that are within the PD that are owned by the Southwest Florida Water Management District as open space. And staff is also recommending approval of that application. Staff's available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, is the applicant here?
Good morning, Cami Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward & Henderson, representing Tampa Electric this morning. Tampa Electric purchased this property, which is located in the rural service area. Here. It is, the future land use is R1, but it is subject to an old rezoning that was approved back in 1991. And that's the graphic that Michelle showed you. This is the Sundance PD. TECO has no desire to build suburban residential property, so when they realized they bought this property and some property to the west, that this was in a PD, they realized they needed to rezone it to agricultural. The likely use is probably a solar farm. That's not been decided yet, but that is the likely use, and we've shared that with the public. We are just simply asking to go to the AR restricted. The restriction came from staff and related to concerns about the roadway that was shown on the prior PD, and we agreed to the restriction and are fine with that. Again, we'd have no desire to build suburban residential. At most, we'd build a caretaker's residence on this property if we did develop it for a solar farm. So I'm here to answer any questions, should you have any, but I respectfully request your approval.
All right, anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you. Melissa Leinhard, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the Residential 1 future land use category. The site is in the rural area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the Little Manatee South Community Plan, as well as the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The request is consistent with the Residential 1 future land use category, as agricultural uses are permitted in this category pursuant to the policies and the agricultural objectives in future land use elements. Objective 29 and 30 recognize the importance and continued existence of agricultural activities, while policy 30.6 encourages agriculture and agricultural support to be the preferred uses found in the rural areas of the county. The applicant is requesting to rezone the site from its existing planned development zoning to agricultural rural zoning district. The site is currently a mix of agricultural farmland and single-family residential, which includes one single-family home that the applicant will remove. The surrounding area to the south of the site is comprised of single-family residential. In contrast, the area to the north is natural preservation and acts as a wildlife corridor along the Little Manatee River, supporting environmental and sustainability section objectives 3.7 and 3.8. Future land use element objective 30 and policies 30.5 and 30.6 encourage agricultural and agricultural related uses in the rural area. Solar energy generating facilities are suitable for the agricultural area, as they are permitted uses in agricultural zoning districts. Sorry, I lost my spot. The proposal therefore meets the intent of future land use element objective 30 and policies 30.5 and 6. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the applicant's request for rezoning to the agricultural rural restricted zoning district. The parcel is located within the rural service area and the Little Manatee South community planning area. The applicant has proposed one restriction, which states that if the property is developed with more than one single-family home, a connection between the eastern and western sections of Lightfoot Road is required. The applicant's representative testified that the property would possibly be developed with a solar farm. One person testified in opposition during the ZHM hearing and expressed concerns about the proposed solar farm and the project's impact on drainage and a possible change in the perceived agricultural aesthetic in the area. The Development Services Department staff testified that the proposed AR restricted zoning district would permit a solar farm with an administrative conditional use. The applicant's representative testified that the property will be maintained, including drainage, in accordance with all applicable code standards. The zoning hearing master concluded that the proposed rezoning to AR restricted with the proposed restriction that includes a transportation connection if the property is developed with more than one single-family home is compatible with the development pattern of the area. The zoning hearing master concluded that the request is consistent with the Land Development Code and the comprehensive plan and recommended approval.
All right, thank you. We'll defer the vote till after the PRS. Mr. Grady, do you need to introduce the PRS?
Again, the G1B is PRS 25-0014, and as noted previously, the purpose of this is to zone the property out of remove the property as part of G1A out of the planned development, and also to redesignate areas owned by the Southwest Florida Water Management District to open space. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The applicant, need to add anything?
Corbett with Hill Ward Henderson. I just wanted to address the hearing master's comments about there being one person in opposition to the development. There is a gentleman that does live in Sundance, and we've been in communication with him, and we've explained that we're just rezoning to AR, and that, you know, future uses, we will comply with the Land Development Code and any regulations that the county has for solar farms. As the zoning hearing master report noted, there is a conditional use that's required, and we will comply with that.
All right, any proponent testimony on the PRS? Any opponent testimony? All right, can we have a motion for both G1A and G1B?
Move approval.
Motion,
Second.
Commissioner Wostel, second Commissioner Cohen. Please record your vote on G1A and G1B.
Motion carried 7-0.
Mr. Grady.
Commissioners, the next item is I-1. It's the status report on Live Local Act development projects. I would note that we've had no new applications submitted since the last report to the board last month. Therefore, we're available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Okay, so no actions needed there. Go back to F2.
Yes, Commissioner, the final item then is item F2. It's rezoning standard 24-1060. The request is rezone a 6.45 acre parcel from RSC to MH. The parcel is located in the Ruskin area west of US 41, south of 19th Avenue Northwest on Northwest 19th Avenue. Again, the request is rezoned from RSC2 with a mobile home overlay to AS1. Ostensibly, as you'll notice in the aerial, this is to accommodate an existing plant farm that's on the property. There's existing agricultural zoning districts within the area. Staff did find this compatible and approval. Planning Commission found it consistent with the plan, and the hearing officer also recommended approval. We're available for any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Good morning.
Good morning. Wendy Dong, the owner of Tropical Place LLC. I think it's very beneficial to have my farm and a nursery around to help the community to provide food for themselves. And I think it's important to have people like me around to change it back to agriculture.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone here in support of the application? Anyone in opposition? Planning Commission?
Thank you, Melissa Leinhardt, Planning Commission staff. The subject property is located in the residential 4 future land use category. The site is in the urban service area, and the subject property is located within the limits of the Ruskin Community Plan and the South Shore Area-Wide Systems Plan. The proposed rezoning to grow and sell potted trees and fruit is supported by Objective 30 of the future land use element, where it's recognized that the continued existence of agricultural activities is beneficial, and the county will develop in coordination with appropriate entities economic incentives to encourage and expand agricultural activities. The comprehensive plan acknowledges agricultural uses as both a crucial industry and a valuable economic asset. Policy 29.1 supports the establishment and upkeep of agricultural market centers to bolster the agricultural economy, promoting agricultural activities within and around these centers. And additionally, Policy 29.6 permits agricultural and related uses even in non-rural land use categories. Rezoning to AS1 and the proposed passive agricultural activities would align well with the residential development pattern of the area, adhering to this policy direction. Policy 30.2 in the future land use element permits the continuation, on-site intensification, and changing of commodities for agricultural uses in non-rural land use categories, even as non-agricultural development is introduced around it, provided that the agricultural uses existed at the time of the adoption of the plan. Additionally, it permits the establishment of new agricultural uses in non-rural categories in a manner conforming with development regulations. The proposal meets the intent of the Ruskin Community Plan. Goal 4 of the plan seeks to promote developments that recognize the historic character of the Ruskin community by supporting continued agricultural activities while promoting a small town character. Based upon those considerations, Planning Commission staff finds the proposed rezoning consistent with the unincorporated Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan. Thank you.
Hearing Master.
The zoning hearing master considered the proposed rezoning of the subject property, which consists of approximately 6.45 acres at 402 Northwest 19th Avenue in Ruskin. The property is designated residential 4 on the future land use map and is zoned RSC2 mobile home. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to the AS1 zoning district. The general area surrounding the property consists of residential, single-family, conventional, and mobile home uses. Adjacent properties include a residential property zoned RSC2, improved with a manufactured home to the north, a residential subdivision zoned PD to the east across an approximately 50-foot right-of-way corridor, a residential single-family subdivision zoned PD to the south, and a parcel zoned RSC2, improved with a manufactured home to the west, with a large parcel zoned AR that is owned by FDOT further west. The property is under code enforcement as of June 26, 2023. The Code Enforcement Department issued a notice of violation which cited the improper use of zone and requires the property to cease or acquire approvals. The applicant testified at the zoning hearing master hearing that she grows tropical trees on the property and uses organic growing methods and does not apply chemical, pesticides, or fertilizers. The applicant testified that she has some on-site sales and also ships her trees through off-site sales. She testified that she has removed invasive Brazilian pepper trees throughout her property. One adjacent property owner to the south raised issues related to noise, flooding, open burning, and runoff, stating that the applicant had improperly raised the elevation of the property and has removed Brazilian pepper and other trees from a common area that belongs to his community. Development Services Department staff found the rezoning would be consistent with the existing zoning and development pattern of the agricultural and residential uses and zoning districts in this area. Staff concluded that the rezoning request is approvable. The zoning hearing master concluded the review with a recommendation of approval of the request to rezone the property to AS1.
All right, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Wostel, second, Commissioner Myers. Please record your vote on F2.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, at this time, we'll adjourn from the land use meeting and we'll commence the LDC public hearing. Welcome to the Board of County Commissioners public hearing on proposed amendments to the county's land development code. The board will hold the final adoption public hearing on 3 amendments to the land development code. The board will then conduct the first of 2 public hearings on 1 additional amendment to the LDC. No vote will be taken on this amendment during this morning's hearing. The board will hold a second and final public hearing on March 11, 2025 at 9 a.m. to consider the adoption of the amendment. This time, Development Services will introduce the first item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Israel Monsanto, Development Services. Commissioners, all land development code text amendments presented this morning were found consistent with the Hillsborough County Comprehensive Plan by the Planning Commission at their February 10, 2025 regular meeting. The first item on this second public hearing is 250278, time extension of zoning hearing, application deadlines due to storm-related delays. The purpose of this amendment is to provide for a time extension of 6 months to public hearing applications in the event that the county declares a state of emergency, a local emergency. This extension will apply to any active hearing application pending as of the date of September 23rd, 2024. And this extended 6 months time will be in addition to any time extensions currently provided for by the Land Development Code for public hearing applications. This concludes this presentation for the first item.
All right, thank you, sir. This is a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak to the item? Can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Motion, Commissioner Cohen, second, Commissioner Bowles. Please record your vote.
Commissioner Wostel? Motion carried 6-0.
All right, next item.
Next item is LEC 250282, pre-site construction plan streamlining process. This amendment will allow applicants the ability to skip directly to site development straight to construction submittals. This will make pre-application submittals, meetings, and preliminary site plan submissions optional. By making both the preliminary site development plan review process or pre-submittal meetings optional, the site development review process will be streamlined and review times shortened while maintaining the same strict review guidelines and requirements already in place in our land development code and also in the development review procedures manual, DRPM. No changes were made to this amendment, and this concludes my presentation for this item.
All right, this is a public hearing. Anyone like to speak to this item?
Melissa Nordbeck. The preliminary plat is the first development order that a citizen can request an administrative hearing with a land use hearing officer if they believe a development is not consistent with a community plan, the comprehensive plan, or land development code. This is an ordinance adopted by Hillsborough County. Florida Statute 163 states, the sole method by which an aggrieved and adversely affected party may challenge any decision of local government granting or denying an application for a development order on the basis that it is not consistent with the comprehensive plan is by petition for writ of certiorari no later than 30 days after the development order is issued, or when all local administrative appeals are exhausted. So if you allow a developer to submit the preliminary plat and the subdivision construction approval development orders at the same time, a citizen will not be able to file in court within the 30-day deadline because the statute requires they have to go through the local administrative process first within that same 30 days, or their case will be thrown out of court. You can't get a land use hearing filed, scheduled, publicly noticed, heard, and a decision rendered within 30 days. The proposed change to the code effectively eliminates the developer's risk of a lawsuit with the blessing of the county. Now let's talk about variances. Variances are required to be publicly noticed. The applicant has to explain why they need a variance to the land use hearing officer at a public hearing. Residents have the right to speak in support or opposition at this hearing. A variance is a request to deviate from current zoning requirements. If you're requesting a rezoning, a process that requires a public hearing, you are asking to change the zoning requirements. And that is why your variance needs to be heard prior to the vote to rezone that results in a resolution with your final conditions and conditions of approval. To then go back and request an administrative variance when it's approved without public notice and after the board just told you what your conditions are is another attempt by developers to circumvent public notice and the will of the board. When Adam Gormley gave you this presentation on these proposed changes to the code, he started it by saying that Development Services only identified 4 code policy changes, but after meeting with developers, they came back with 11. This policy change is being driven by developers under the guise of eliminating red tape and making the process more cost-effective. Today's other 2 proposals will achieve that, but this one, strategically placed between the other 2, is more sinister in nature and is an attempt to speed up the process to avoid transparency, input from the public, and to limit legal liability. You must vote down this blatant one-sided attempt to further water down residents' ability to challenge developers.
All right, thank you. Anyone else want to speak to the item?
Cami Corbett with the law firm of Hill, Ward, and Henderson. I want to speak in support of this item. Mr. Gormley has been very good at board direction, looking at things that are really just more process than substantive. There is no change to a citizen's ability to challenge a development permit under Chapter 163. They're free to do that, whether it's at preliminary plat, construction plan. They are free to file whatever challenge they would like to file, and that is not changing this. It's in response partly to state statute changes, and I think that this your development service staff is ahead of the curve from most jurisdictions and doing a really good job of doing their job and balancing the interests of the citizens and the development community.
Anyone else like to speak to the item? Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you. Mr. Gormley, if you can I just want to make sure and get it on the record that, you know, when we first got here, Commissioner Cepeda and I, we were dealing with an issue where we had gone so heavy-handed on some of our policies and direction that we literally had and a citizens community negotiating first right of refusal of the sale of somebody else's property, of units that were going to, I mean, it was a wild situation that in my opinion, ever got to this point. But so I do want a lot of cleanup and reduction of government process, because any process is just a hidden tax, which just makes things more expensive. But what I do want to make sure is that I don't know what either speaker is referencing in state law. I'm not familiar with those statutes about making sure that they have enough time to file in court. So I want to make sure we get it on the record that we're not confusing two different scenarios. But if we change this, we're still in full compliance. It sounds like we wouldn't be able to make a change that would go against the state's laws anyways. I mean, I've dealt with it so much. So this 30-day rule that exists, they would still be able to accomplish. And I'm assuming if they weren't able to get in here to go through the local administrative office process that was granted, the courts would somehow have to recognize, okay, it's 30 days from the first time they could have challenged it through the local administration, or
So,
maybe?
yeah. So, Commissioner, I think, and I'll just note that this amendment here is speaking only about pre-submittal meetings. I believe that some of the speakers are speaking to the subsequent amendment, but I will address that. Nothing that we're doing in any of these amendments will obviate or change the ability for a person to seek a challenge to a development order for consistency with the comprehensive plan as provided by state statutes, period. Nothing is going to change that ability. In terms of the timing, and I'm speaking to the next amendment now, of a administrative challenge, so there's a administrative appeal process within the county. If a person believes that there was an error made in processing a permit, there's an ability to make an appeal of that decision to a land use hearing officer. Nothing in any of these amendments is changing that ability to file an appeal to a land use hearing officer alleging an error made in a county permitting process.
Okay. Now that that's on the record, I'll be supportive of the item.
All right, can we have a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
All right, we got a motion by Commissioner Meyer, second Commissioner Cameron Cepeda. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Next item.
Next item in the second public hearing is LDC 250283, subdivision plans review permitting improvements. This text amendment will create a combined preliminary plat and construction plan review option for platted residential subdivisions with improvements, along with a expedited residential building permitting program. This combined review option will permit the issuance of residential building permits prior to the approval and recording of a final plat. The amendment provides an opportunity for expedited permitting of residential subdivisions, while at the same time maintaining compliance with substantive review standards and the requirement for infrastructure to support the subdivision to be in place prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy. There are also 4 conditions that need to be met before the certificate of occupancies are issued. And this concludes my presentation on this item.
All right, would anyone like to speak to this item? All right, can we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Now can we have a motion to adopt an ordinance on the amendments that we just approved?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Commissioner Cohen, second Commissioner Wostel. Please record your vote.
Motion carried, 7-0.
All right, now we'll go on to the first public hearing for the last item this morning.
This is the first public hearing for this item, LDC 250283, subdivision plans review permitting improvements. I'm sorry, this is the stairways, first public hearing. Okay, 250348, for stairways projecting in required yards for site in the special flood hazard areas. This amendment will allow stairways for elevated structures in the special flood hazard area to project into required front yard beyond the current 3-foot limitation established by our code. Due to recent hurricanes affecting our region, residential homes destroyed by the storms now have to be elevated to comply with FEMA requirements. As part of the county participation in the National Flood Insurance Program, the LDC and County Construction Code require that new residential structures in the special flood hazard area be elevated above an established base flood elevation. Existing structures located in the special flood hazard area that are elevated or reconstructed within the same building footprint will be allowed to have stairways necessary to provide access to the elevated structures in the required front yard. Again, this amendment will provide the allowance for stairways encroachments into the required front setback for these homes, and thereby not require property owners seeking to elevate their homes above the minimum requirement to us to seek for a variance to do so. And this concludes this presentation.
All right, would anyone like to speak to this item? All right, Commissioner Wostel.
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate this item. It's a solution for a real problem. If you haven't been able to go and see what happened in Dana Shores and those surrounding areas, I think this is a meaningful way for them to move up and move on from the tragedy that happened.
All right, Commissioner Cohen.
Yeah, I agree. Yesterday, I attended a meeting at the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council where they presented a lot of lessons learned after the hurricanes from the 5-county region. And one of the major recommendations was to start looking at what code changes are required in order to make us more resilient and, to mitigate against storms. I am really glad we're being proactive and doing this, and I look forward to doing more of this on a continual basis as we gear up for the next hurricane season. So I'll move approval.
No actions required at this time. So no one else in the queue?
Mr. Chair, if I just mention one thing, we are working with Dana Shores community and some residents in there, and the experiences that they are having are helping us to craft these regulations. I just wanted to let the board know that we are having continual discussions even on this amendment. So we've got some requests from the community for, I think, reasonable accommodations to this, perhaps a small expansion of the footprint in the area where the elevated structure could go. So we anticipate having some minor tweaks to this amendment to further address some of the challenges at the adoption public hearing. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Is anyone else in the queue? So, Commissioner Cohen?
Just ask, so are you going to be able to essentially work with people and because, there's all kinds of different constraints on different lots?
Yes, sir. We are, and we are getting very good. We've got some very good communication with this particular Dana Shores in particular. That's extremely helpful to us. We have people who are bringing us challenging situations, and it's letting us understand each of those individual situations and identify potential solutions for them to make the process easier. So we would very much like to continue to do that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we're adjourned.